She heard that JFK was coming to Stuyvesant Town, and where I grew up in New York City. She said, and she took me out there and put me on top of a mailbox, and I watched 20th Street, this big boulevard that's usually filled with cars, filling with people. And then I saw this charismatic young senator jump up there and say, and speak, and it was, you know, I was 5, I didn't quite understand everything he was saying, but I understood it was really important and exciting and electric. And years later, I went back and recovered the speech that he gave there, and he said, I'm not here on the platform that says if you elect me, everything will be good. He said being an American citizen in the 1960s is a hazardous occupation filled with challenge, but also hope. And we will decide on November, I believe it was 8th, which direction we'll take. And in a way that summarizes my feeling, because what he was saying is we have control over our destiny to some degree, and the decisions we make in elections and the people we elect and the direction we choose really can help shape the kind of future in which we live. I believe that, and I've seen it. And I have one of my favorite clients sitting over here, Governor Patrick, who is living proof of that. Living proof of that. Here was a guy who from the moment I met him, was just filled with a vision and idealism and a sense that we could do things that mattered together. And this state is a better state for the fact that he was here. So, you know, I've seen a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly of politics. I've been disappointed at times by candidates. I've been disappointed by people who I had high hopes for. But in the main, I see evidence all the time. And, you know, the president himself, you know, you hear a lot of discussion about, from some people about, well, you know, disappointment didn't, I mean, and for those who thought that, that the simple act of electing him was a panacea for every problem, I think there may have been some disappointment. But what I see is, I see a country that was in economic crisis when he got elected, that has come through that storm. I see, you know, there were 2 wars raging when he got elected, 180,000 troops overseas. They've come home. I saw a healthcare system that was imploding and more people without insurance. And now we have health reform. The first, you know, 7 presidents tried to do it, 7 presidents failed, and he succeeded in doing it. It's work in progress, but it's progress for sure. You know, gay and lesbian Americans have rights they didn't have when he got there. We've taken big steps on climate change, have to take more. We've taken steps on immigration reform, have to take more. But there are a whole range of things on which we are in a better place because this man was elected president. And not just because he was elected president, but because a whole bunch of Americans, some of whom are probably in this room, organized on his behalf and on behalf of their shared values and the direction they wanted to choose for the country.
Yeah, I've written that I think you wrote perhaps the best case for the Obama presidency that I've seen. And you basically argue he's been the best president since FDR first 2 years, got more accomplished, with the possible exception of Lyndon Johnson on the domestic side. Help us understand what it is that the message meister and a campaign strategist do in a campaign.
You know, my candidates often ask me look, you know, I started as a journalist, and in a sense, part of the job, a big part of the job, is helping a candidate tell the story. Right. Tell the story of who they are, tell the story of where they want to lead, tell the story of what a campaign is about. And the real challenge of a campaign for a strategist, a message strategist, is to make sure that you are faithful to that story and that all the pieces fit together. One of the joys of working with Deval Patrick was that he had a sense of that narrative. He knew who he was and he knew where he wanted to lead, and he had a great sense of language, and it was a collaboration from the beginning. And the same was true with with President Obama from the time I started working with him when he was a state senator running for the Senate.
Let's, Governor Patrick, I wonder if you could join us in the conversation just for a couple minutes and tell us what it was like to have David Axelrod as your campaign manager and as your message. But please stand, Governor, where everybody.
They're having withdrawal, Governor. They want to see you.
Private citizen. I just wanted to come and support my friend, but I remember, David has a version of how we came to know each other, which has to do with his sister, which I didn't know at the time, but I came to know and work with David because Doug Rubin, who was our chief strategist, said it's time to get a message person, someone to help us with the media and all that stuff. And I'd never done anything like this before. I'd never run for anything before, so I didn't know anybody in that field. And he said, well, I think we should talk to these people, these people, these people, and also the guy who helped Senator Obama become a United States Senator. And I said, we can't ask him. I mean, that's a whole other orbit. And he said, no, we ought to ask. And I think Doug Rubin called you the same day your sister did.
Yes, yes. It was. There's something bigger going on there. I think the same forces that made your January swearing in a 50-something degree day, so we didn't freeze because you insisted it would be outside. Were at play when my sister called me. My big sister Joan is sitting right there.
Please stand up, Joan. Please.
And Joan.
What did you see? What did you see in the relationship between the two? What was the potential here?
Oh,
Careful, I'm right here.
I live in Arlington. We had a group in Arlington who, one or two people in particular, who had identified Deval Patrick as someone who was unique and someone who could bring something to the governorship that was sorely needed. And I began working for him, and the more I got to know about him, the more, to me, represented the kinds of candidates that David had worked for in the past, and what he believed in. And I called him up and I said, you got to see this guy.
Right. And she had never, ever done that before, so I knew she was serious about this. But, you know, for me, so we sat down, and it took me about 10 seconds to figure out why my sister wanted me to meet him. And, you know, at that time, the Beacon Hill, I was familiar with this pattern. You know, the Beacon Hill wise guys were saying, they were ridiculing Deval for the silliness of wanting to go from town to town and group to group and actually interface with people instead of raising money to spend on television. And, you know, he had all the, at that point in my career, you know, I'd just done the Obama campaign, which really re-energized my idealism after I was becoming really depressed about the state of politics. So I was really hunting for candidates who gave me that same sense.
What I'm saying is that after my call, you said to me, I'm really busy.
Right.
Yeah. You said that to us as well. Thank you for having done this, David, and I'll sit down. What was incredibly comforting to this first-time candidate was that David didn't tell me what to think or what to say, because I wasn't interested in that, and he didn't come to the assignment that way. He helped me understand where the hazards were, and he helped me think again about how to say what I wanted to say, but not what to say or what to have. And you know, this whole idea of bringing your whole self to the campaign and your real self, this notion that the public understands authenticity, they're much smarter than you think, is something that David Axelrod got about what we were trying to do from the start. And I'll never forget it. I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.